Like and subscribe to PalsFundamentals on YouTube for more videos like this. Sources linked below. Welcome. We're doing a regional news report today, looking at some key developments across the North Atlantic.
That's right. We'll be covering Norway, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands.
We've gathered reports on politics, economics, some notable events, straight from local sources.
And it's really important to stress we're just presenting the information as reported. No opinions, no speculation from our side.
Exactly. Just a clear, concise overview of what's being said in those regions.
Okay.
So, let's start with Norway. There's news concerning a Norwegian citizen arrested over in the U.S. in Florida.
Yes. This involves a shooting incident at Florida State University. The person arrested is a 20-year-old student there.
And tragically, 2 people were killed, others injured.
That's the report. 2 fatalities and at least 6 injured. The deceased weren't students, though. That detail was specified.
And the suspect holds dual citizenship, Norwegian and American.
Correct. Also, the stepson of a policewoman, and multiple reports mention the firearm used. Yes.
Apparently, it was one of his mother's former service weapons.
Wow. Okay. And that's confirmed.
Sheriff Walt McNeil of Leon County confirmed that at a press conference, yeah.
The shooting itself happened near a student building, midday.
Around noon local time, yes.
Yeah.
Florida State University sent out a notification later, around 6 p.m. Norwegian time.
And the police confirmed an arrest fairly quickly.
They did. The suspect was apprehended and then taken to hospital with gunshot wounds.
Right. We heard from any students there.
There's a quote from an international relations student, Christina Barova. She just described it as terrible.
Understandable. And U.S. officials, President Trump commented.
He did, from the Oval Office.
Yeah.
Called it terrible, a shame. He also mentioned his continued support for the Second Amendment. No talk of new gun laws from him.
Okay.
And the Justice Department.
Attorney General Pam Bondi said the DOJ and FBI were monitoring the situation closely.
The university rector, Richard McCullough, I saw he visited the injured.
Yes, and he praised the university police, called them true heroes, for how fast they responded.
And a memorial gathering took place as well.
It did, near the campus center.
All right. Let's shift focus now up to Greenland. Education seems to be a major topic there.
Definitely. A school in Nuuk, Kenjalingwit Atuarfiat, is reporting more students with special needs.
Okay. And they're struggling to cope.
It sounds like it. The vice principal, Vivi Hammond, mentioned lack of space and staff. Makes it hard to tailor the education properly.
And the teachers union, IMAC, what's their take?
They point to budget cuts causing overcrowded classes. Even the special classes, meant to be small, are exceeding guidelines. Some have 11 or 12 students instead of the maximum 8.
That must really impact the students needing support.
Absolutely. It makes it harder to give them the attention they need.
So what's being done? Anything on the teacher training front?
Well, the University Elisimatu has actually made special pedagogy a required part of the teacher education program now.
Oh, so it wasn't before?
It was an elective, apparently. But Britta Lohman, head of the Institute for Learning, said not enough people chose it, so they made it mandatory, though maybe a bit smaller in scope than the elective was.
I see. Is there more advanced training available?
There's a diploma program in special pedagogy, yes. But here's the catch. Municipal resources are tight, so it's hard for teachers to actually get released to participate.
So the program exists, but access is an issue.
Right. Sometimes they don't even get enough applicants to run a cohort for the diploma. They offer shorter courses too, but the overall need seems much bigger.
And this ties back to municipal funding again.
It seems so. Municipalities apparently lack the resources for necessary upskilling and further education for their teachers. Some schools are even asking for courses on things they probably should be handling internally.
There was also something about psychological first aid courses mandated by the parliament in Atsisartit.
Yes, aimed at helping school staff handle stress, grief, trauma in students. Very popular courses. No extra funding was provided with the mandate. So again, capacity is limited by resources.
It sounds like the Institute for Learning itself is under pressure.
Significant pressure. Reports mention budget cuts of around 16 million kroners between 2016 and 2022, even as their workload increased.
And lecturers there agree about the need for better support.
Yes. Lisa Corneliussen and Katrine Munch-Kirsted, both involved in teacher education, echo the vice principal's points. They stress that while the university provides foundational knowledge,
Uh-huh.
real-world situations are often more complex, and municipalities have a duty to support ongoing teacher development. They teach differentiation about diagnoses, special needs.
But theory versus practice is always a gap.
Exactly. They believe schools and municipalities need to ensure teachers get that necessary upskilling.
Has there been any response from the municipalities? Like Kommunkorfik Summersuk?
Yes, they acknowledged the challenges in a written response, said they've started initiatives more teacher training and special pedagogy, better collaboration between advisors and teachers.
Any concrete plans?
They mentioned plans for new departments for students with specific needs, like autism.
And politically, is this on the agenda?
It seems so. A recent coalition agreement signed March 28th apparently includes initiatives to strengthen public schools and improve conditions, specifically mentioning well-being, mental health, and support for students with diagnoses and special needs.
Like maybe limiting class sizes?
That's one proposed measure, yes. Something schools have wanted for a long time. Britta Lohman from the university just expressed hope that this new plan actually gets acted on.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, shifting gears within Greenland politics and international relations, quite a stir about potential U.S. influence.
Yes. Following a New York Times piece, it cited anonymous sources saying the Trump administration explored offering Greenlanders money, like $10,000 each annually, to become part of the U.S.
Wow, how did that go down in Denmark?
Rasmus Jarlov, the Conservative Party's Greenland spokesperson in Denmark, was very clear. He said Denmark would block Greenland's secession if it was triggered by American bribery.
He actually said block.
Yes. He argued no country would tolerate another bribing its regions away, and pointed out the U.S. wouldn't like it if, say, China tried that with Hawaii. He even took to social media to tell Americans directly it wouldn't work and would just alienate everyone.
But legally, isn't independence Greenland's decision?
Well, yes and no. Under the Self-Government Act, Greenlanders decide, then there are negotiations. But crucially, any final agreement needs consent from the Danish parliament, the Folketinget. And that's where Jarlov says they should use a veto if bribery is involved.
Does he think Greenlanders can be bribed?
He expressed doubt about that, but said he wanted to signal clearly against any American intentions beforehand.
And the reaction in Greenland itself.
Pretty strong. Pippa Lenge from IA called the suggestion offensive, flat out said Greenland isn't for sale. Justice Hansen from Democrat called it intimidating and disrespectful, suggesting diplomacy, not takeover talk.
Has the Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, weighed in on blocking secession?
No comment from her on that specific hypothetical, apparently.
Okay. Also on the international stage, Greenland's taking over the Arctic Council chairmanship soon.
Next month, yes. It's technically a shared chairmanship with Denmark and the Faroe Islands, but Greenland sets the agenda.
That sounds significant.
It is. Mark Jacobson, an Arctic expert at the Defense Academy, calls it a symbolically important victory for Greenland. A sign of moving towards greater equality within the realm, giving Greenland a more independent voice.
Seeing Greenland's foreign ministers sitting with U.S. and Russian counterparts really underlines that voice, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Though, of course, the war in Ukraine means current Arctic Council activities are somewhat limited. Cooperation with Russia is paused by the other members.
Are there potential challenges for Greenland during its chairmanship, especially thinking about the U.S.?
Definitely a risk, particularly regarding the agenda. If President Trump were to return, his past stance hasn't always aligned with Arctic Council priorities like sustainable development and indigenous rights.
You mean like that incident in 2019?
Exactly. When the U.S. refused to sign the final declaration because it mentioned climate change, and more recently, Trump reversing the name of Mount Denali back to McKinley, ignoring the indigenous name. These things clash with Greenland's stated priorities.
Which are?
Indigenous peoples, Arctic communities, sustainable economy, energy transition, the ocean, and climate change.
So navigating potential U.S. opposition could be tricky. What about Russia?
Well, despite the official pause, Russia has apparently been slowly reintegrated into some working groups. But yeah, Trump's past talk about acquiring Canada or Greenland adds another layer of uncertainty for the Council's stability.
So Greenland's main task might just be keeping the council functioning.
Could be, especially if a potential Trump administration is skeptical of international bodies. Jacobson suggested the council might survive if the administration just doesn't see it as important enough to engage with much.
Interesting dynamic. Okay, still in Greenland, let's touch on defense briefly. A proposal from the Danish People's Party.
Yes, DF proposed sending 100 armed Danish soldiers to Greenland equipped with ship-targeting weapons.
100 soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And also introducing conscription.
That's part of their proposal, yes. Plus, establishing a new Home Guard unit there. Alex Aronson from DF says it's about signaling defense of the kingdom and getting Greenlanders more involved.
Weren't their previous conscription ideas rejected?
They were. Greenland currently has the right to military service, Vernet, meaning people can volunteer for service in Denmark, but not compulsory service, Verneplaid.
And how did Greenland's leadership react this time?
Premier Jens Fredrik Nielsen rejected the conscription idea immediately. He favors expanding the existing Arctic Basic Training Program in Tangerlussuaq instead.
What's that program?
It allows Greenlanders to train potentially for the Navy, Air Force, or Army. It just started in May 2024 with about 22 students. Last 6 months, possibly extendable.
So a pathway for voluntary service based in Greenland.
Right. And the Danish Social Democrats' defense spokesperson, Simon Kollerup, also opposed DF's conscription idea.
Is there broader investment happening in Arctic defense?
Yes. Earlier this year, the parties behind the main defense agreement allocated about 14.6 billion kroner for the Arctic and North Atlantic. That includes new Arctic vessels, long-range drones, better satellite capabilities.
And the training program.
Increased intake for the Arctic basic training was part of that agreement, too. Another agreement focusing more on deterrence is expected later in 2025.
Okay. Finally, let's quickly check in on the Faroe Islands. A couple of news items there.
Yes. One concerning health. Around 500 men who had prostate cancer blood tests since March 10th haven't received their results yet.
Why the delay?
There are concerns the results might be incorrect, so they're holding off while they investigate that.
Okay, that's worrying for those men. And the other item?
A police matter in nrk.gl. Reports came in around 10 a.m. about a drunk man firing a gun into the air.
Oh dear. Was anyone hurt?
Doesn't seem so. Police arrived, and he apparently fired another shot then. But they managed to talk him into surrendering around 10:30 a.m.
Good outcome. He's in custody now.
Yes, while authorities figure out the charges.
Right. Well, that brings us to the end of this regional news roundup.
Just a snapshot of some key events and discussions in Norway, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands.
And again, based purely on the reports from those regions, no added commentary from us.
We hope it's giving you a clearer picture of some current happenings in the North Atlantic.
Like and subscribe to PalsFundamentals on YouTube for more videos like this. Sources linked below.